Tell us some fairy tales, Mom. That you tell the kids when they're ready to hear something.
There's one story I haven't told for a long time that you boys will remember. One my dad used to always tell us about Cattymount.
What's a Cattymount?
Well, a Cattymount's a mountain lion. So he tells about these two little boys, and they were brothers, and one was a little older than the other one. And I know when you were smaller, I'd either say it was Frank and Bud, or Bud and Dale, or whoever. So I guess that's what we ought to name him tonight. We ought to name these two little boys Frank and Bud. And they had little guns, and they wanted to go shoot squirrels. So their dad picked their guns so they could go hunting. And he said, now be very, very careful and don't go a long ways away. And they said, well, they wouldn't. They'd be careful. So they got out there and they shooting these little squirrels. And then they'd see some farther up ahead and they'd go after them. Well, pretty soon they were a long way away from home, but they had quite a few squirrels. And it started to get dark, and they didn't know which way to go home. There was an old house, log house that was standing over through the field. So they went over there to this log cabin and went inside, and they built them a fire and cooked up the squirrels. Now that's the way my dad told it, and I don't know that anyone ever eats squirrels, but they did. So they ate these squirrels, and then they were tired, and they lay down in the corner. If you know how the log cabin is, where the logs go together, sometimes there's big openings like this in between. And that was what this little log cabin was like. And they lay down there, and they went to sleep. And in the night, one little boy could feel something pulling the covers off. So he shook his little brother, and he said, quit pulling the covers off from him. And he said, well, I'm not pulling the covers off from him. So they looked up, and it was a bright moonlight night. And they looked, and they could see this paw, this old Cattymount coming through, pulling, trying to reach these little boys. And they didn't know what to do, and they were scared. And so Frank said, well, I'll get the axe. So he went and got the axe and chopped down on that old Cattymount's paw. And the bone flew up, and here was a log up here, and here was a log back here, and he couldn't get his paw back out. The bone was broken and holding him right there. And he yowled, and he yowled, and he howled, and the poor little boys were so scared, afraid he'd get away or pull a little shack down, this little old cabin down. So when it got morning, said, well, now we can see. Let's see what we can do about that. So they looked out, and the old lion had calmed down a little bit, but every once in a while he'd let out a roar, pull at the head of his paw again. So Bud says, I'll hand the rocks to you, Frank, and you throw them down and see if you can hit that old Cattymount. So to begin with, they both gathered up a lot of rocks. They took them on top of the cabin. Finally, Bud got up there with them, and they had a lot of rocks, and they both decided to throw down the old Cattymount. Pretty soon they killed him, and he was laying there, but he still had his paw in between the logs. About that time, they heard somebody call, Bud, Frank. The old boy says, that's Mom and Dad. So they waved from on top of the little log cabin. Parents come, and they said, oh, so glad you're all right. We've been so worried about you. So the boy says, well, you would have been worried if you knew what we did this morning and last night, what happened to us last night. So they took him around and showed him this dead Cattymount. And the story ended happily ever after.
Very good. 21 question. Get it off?
Mm-hmm.
Where the hell did they use the gun?
Oh, that's come in the story, that's right.
They ran out of bullets.
Yeah, well, they ran out of bullets, and then the oldest boy,
That's me.
yeah, he said a little 22 would not kill him anyway.
Oh, okay.
That's a good explanation.
Well, that's a good answer. Yeah, I was just wondering.
That's what Dad used to tell him, but I forgot that. See, it's been a long time since I told that.
That was the story your dad used to tell you then.
Well,